I'm ordering $2,000 in monthly alimony, the judge ruled. You'll also continue paying the mortgage, $1,000 in child support, and health insurance until your daughter turns 18. If she goes to college, you're covering that too. That decision hit like a freight train, over $6,500 a month out of my pocket. Meanwhile, my ex-wife Lily had been sleeping with half the lawyers at her firm, and somehow, I was the one getting screwed. I'm Kurt D'Angelo. My daughter Regina is everything to me. A true daddy's girl. She even told the court she wanted to live with me, but the judge didn't care. The whole hearing was a joke. Lily made her own money. Why was I bankrolling her life and her lifestyle? But I'm not the kind of guy who rolls over. I had a plan. I grew up in Lansing, just outside Chicago. We handle things our own way. I'm what you might call an entrepreneur. Real estate, vending machines, and a little business that was about to pay off in a very specific way. I own a coin exchange company like Coinstar, dozens of machines across Chicagoland. So, yeah, I sent her that $2,000 in nickels, dimes, and quarters, delivered in sacks by an armored truck. Let her roll them up. Maybe one of her lawyer boyfriends can help count. Lily had stayed home with Regina until she hit school age. Then it was part-time jobs until she got the idea to become a paralegal. She studied for a couple years, sent out resumes everywhere, and landed a job at a big law firm. Sure, she's smart, but I suspect it was her looks that opened that door. She quickly rose through the ranks, mentored by a young hotshot attorney. Looking back, I wonder if she'd been trading favors even then. And like the fool I was, I supported her every step. She came home exhausted but smiling. Now I know why. We used to live in a cozy house in Oak Forest. Nothing fancy, but we loved it. She didn't. As she got in deeper with the firm, she started pushing for a fancier life. We deserve better, she said. You make good money. I'm working at a prestigious place. We need to show it. After 2 years of pressure, I gave in. But I didn't sell our home. I rented it out and added it to my portfolio. We bought a $900,000 place in Wilmette. Big, flashy, full of overpriced furniture she picked out. I never felt at home there. Honestly, I think that's when we really started falling apart. I wanted to keep things grounded. She wanted a spotlight. Back to the court ruling. I would follow every part of it, but on my terms. I set up a separate account for Regina. That's where her child support would go. Only she could access it. Her health insurance, top tier, Lily. She got a bare-bones catastrophic plan with a monster deductible. If she caught a cold, it was on her. Exactly 30 days later, I made my first alimony payment. An armored truck rolled up to her precious mansion. She opened the door, one of her flings by her side. The driver politely told her he was delivering her monthly check, in bags of loose change. Neighbors peeked out, thinking it was some sweepstakes win. Instead, they watched pounds of coins spill across her marble floors. I stood across the street, phone in hand, capturing every clink and gasp. Justice doesn't always come in a robe, sometimes it jingles. As the truck pulled away, Lily saw me across the street. She started screaming, but I just waved and shouted, "Enjoy your home money!" Then I climbed into my truck and drove off, satisfied. By Tuesday, the backlash had already started. A guy approached me in a parking lot and asked, "Are you Kurt D'Angelo?" I ignored him. He tried again, louder this time. Still, I said nothing. Then he snapped a photo of me beside the legal documents he held, dropped them on the ground, and said, "You've been served," before walking off. After making sure he was gone, I picked up the summons. Court was scheduled for the following Wednesday. I had 1 week to finish preparing, and I didn't waste a minute. I made calls, locked in plans, and met with people I trusted. One of those people was my daughter, Regina. We went out for lunch, and she was furious with her mom. "She's turned into a total witch," she said. I told her again, "I want to live with you." She still won't let me. I looked her in the eye and said, "I'll bring it up with the judge again, but if he refuses, I might end up in jail." "Don't do anything stupid, Dad," she warned me. "It's not worth it." "I won't," I said, "but I will speak my mind, and that might land me in trouble. But don't worry, I've got a trust set up just for you. Uncle Ken will manage it until you're of age. It's yours. Your mom doesn't get a cent." "Good," she said, strong and defiant. "She doesn't deserve anything." That's my girl, fierce, loyal, and growing into her own. Then she surprised me. "I'm going to court with you. I want the judge to hear me say I want to live with you." "I'm not sure it'll make a difference," I replied. But deep down, I admired her fire. Wednesday came. Regina, my lawyer, and I sat in the courtroom waiting our turn. Then Lily strutted in, arm in arm with her smug lawyer boyfriend. "Better play nice," she hissed at me. "You're not above the law." When the judge called my name, Regina stood up first and walked straight to the podium. Miss, this is a matter involving Kurt D'Angelo, the judge said. I'm his daughter, she replied, and I want to ask again to live with my dad, not with that woman. Watch your mouth, young lady, the judge snapped. Custody has already been decided. I'm 15. I have the right to choose, she insisted. There were concerns raised about an inappropriate relationship between you and your father, the judge said coldly. That's why I awarded custody to your mother. I turned to Lily and saw her smirking. My lawyer stepped in immediately. Your Honor, no such allegation has ever been filed. We're unaware of any accusations. I am referring to a psychiatrist's report, the judge said. Based on that, my ruling stands. 4 months earlier, we'd sent Regina to a therapist to help her through the divorce. Apparently, Lily had found something in the notes to twist against me. There had never been anything inappropriate, ever, but now she was trying to paint me as a monster. My blood was boiling. The judge didn't even let us respond. It felt like the verdict had been decided long before we stepped into that room. And I couldn't shake the feeling that Lily's firm had pulled some strings. Then her lawyer chimed in. We'd like to file a motion to hold Mr. D'Angelo in contempt. My attorney had had enough. Your Honor, my client has met every obligation of the divorce decree. There are no grounds for contempt. Lily's lawyer wasn't finished. The $2,000 spousal support was delivered in coins, thousands of them dumped on her floor. It caused damage and took hours to clean up. The judge raised an eyebrow, but my lawyer was ready. According to U.S. Code Section 5103, coins are legal tender for all debts. The payment was valid. My client has also paid for the mortgage, child support, and insurance. Lily's lawyer tried again. She hasn't received any child support. The money is going directly to Regina, my lawyer countered. She can confirm. The judge turned to my daughter, who nodded proudly. We also have receipts for the mortgage and insurance, my lawyer added. Lily and her boyfriend lawyer were scrambling. Finally, they made one last plea. We request that future payments be made by check to avoid hardship. The judge paused, then finally spoke. That seems reasonable. Reasonable, sure, but this battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. Before the judge could continue, my lawyer stepped in. Your Honor, may I ask a quick question? The judge raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. Would you say the Chicago Police Department is part of the city's legal system? The judge looked puzzled. Yes, obviously. Then why is it, my lawyer continued, that if someone's car is impounded, they're not allowed to pay with a check, only cash or card? Yet you're now requiring my client to make spousal support payments specifically by check? The judge floundered. Well, my point is, my lawyer added, if a branch of the legal system refuses checks, why is my client being forced to use them? The judge's face turned red. Because this is my courtroom, and I decide how things are done. That was my breaking point. No, it's because you're bending over backward for my ex-wife's law firm. What, was she sleeping with you too? I said, rising to my feet. His gavel slammed. Mr. D'Angelo, you're in contempt. 6 months in Cook County Jail unless you apologize and agree to my terms. Who do you think you are? The king of this kangaroo court? I shot back. Gasps filled the room. Even the judge looked stunned. Bailiff, take him into custody. Lily and her attorney froze, not expecting that move. As I was let out, I turned to her and smiled. Good luck getting that hoe money now. They threw me in holding, strip-searched me, and moved me into county jail, which is really just prison with another name. Right away, a couple of guards tried to intimidate me about the judge. I wasn't worried. I'm 6'4", 255 pounds, and built like a brick wall from years of physical work on my rental properties, not to mention my time in juvie as a teen. I kept to myself as I was processed and walked into the yard. I ignored the noise, the stares. I had no intention of making friends, just keeping my head down. At dinner, while I was eating alone, someone shouted, Tex! I froze. That name hadn't been used in decades. It was Randall, aka Ringer, one of the guys from my old crew on the streets. He walked over with a big grin and pulled me into a brotherly hug. Tex, man, what the hell are you doing in here? Smart-mouthed the judge, I replied. Yep, that'll do it. 6 months, unless I kiss his A, so yeah, 6 months. We talked and caught up. Ringer had always had my back and still did. He gave me the rundown on jail life and introduced me to a few guys he trusted. That meant a lot in a place like this. After I explained what happened with Lily, the court, and the bogus accusations, he asked, So what's the plan? Oh, I've got things in motion, I told him. Started prepping weeks ago, just in case. You want help? You've got it, he said without hesitation. That's the kind of loyalty you can't buy. Later that night, I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had come to this. My childhood wasn't easy. Abusive father, weak mother, a house full of screaming and silence. I escaped to the streets, fell in with other broken kids. We weren't a real gang, just a bunch of lost boys pretending to be tough. Petty theft, joyriding, acting out. I ended up in juvie after a car theft. As harsh as it was, that stint probably saved me. It forced me to reflect. When I got out, I promised myself I'd build a better life. And I did, until it all got ripped apart. But one thing's for sure, I'm not done fighting yet. By the time I turned 20, I'd saved enough to buy a foreclosed home on the South Side. It was the start of my rental business, fixing up homes, flipping some, and renting out the rest. At 22, I was at a club looking for a fun night. I couldn't even tell you the club's name now. It's long gone, replaced by overpriced condos. That night, I met Lily. At the time, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was fresh out of Seymour, Indiana, a small-town girl with big city dreams. We were opposites. Her life had been quiet and safe. Mine was anything but. Maybe that's what pulled us together. Within a year, we were married. A year later, Regina was born, our daughter, my entire world. I'd bought a fixer-upper in Oak Forest, intending to flip it, but Lily fell in love with it. So we made it our home and spent the next decade building a life, renovating together, raising our daughter, hosting neighborhood BBQs. It felt like the American dream, but then things changed. Lily got hired at a big law firm, and suddenly the modest life wasn't good enough. She swapped jeans for designer labels, swapped cookouts for fancy dinners with coworkers. She started mocking people from the South Side, like she'd forgotten where she came from. We fought about it a lot. Then came the push to move north. She wanted Wilmette, and eventually I gave in. Regina hated the new school, hated the rich kid attitude, and begged to go back. I felt the same. But Lily? She loved the image. The night that broke everything started like so many others. Around 6:30, she texted me, out dancing with the other paralegals. I had a feeling, so I tracked her phone. What I saw confirmed everything I'd feared. She was on the dance floor, not with her coworkers, but with men, letting them paw at her, kiss her, grind on her like she was theirs. I stayed in the shadows, watching it all. Around 9:15, I went to the restroom. 2 guys walked in after me, and I overheard them talking about her. Graphic, crude, laughing about what she'd already done with them at work and what was going to happen tonight. It was no joke. They weren't just talking trash. They knew her. When I stepped out, she was wrapped around one of them, kissing him like I didn't exist. Minutes later, she texted me, "Too drunk to take the train, crashing at Paula's tonight." I replied, "That's fine." But I knew where she was really going. I watched them leave the club together, arms linked, laughing, tangled up in each other. They climbed into his Lexus like they had no care in the world. I didn't chase them. I followed from a distance. They pulled into his building's garage, and I drove straight to Wilmette. Regina was waiting up. I told her we were leaving, for good. She packed in record time. I told her mom had other priorities now. She understood instantly. We loaded up the truck and drove to our old home in Oak Forest. It had recently become vacant, and now it was ours again. The next morning, around 11 o'clock, Lily called. "Where are you?" "Home," I said flatly. It took her a second to register what that meant. "Why?" "Because I don't know who you are anymore, and I don't want to." "Where's Regina?" "She's with me. She doesn't want to live in that house anymore." She hesitated, not sure how much I knew. Then she played her usual card. "Just because you hate comfort doesn't mean you take our daughter and run." "No, but having a wife who sleeps around, that's reason enough. Expect divorce papers soon." She gasped. Then came the venom. "You Southside trash, you've got no idea the hell you're bringing on yourself. My firm will destroy you." I stayed calm. "Maybe, but I'll win in the end. You've never seen what I'm capable of." 6 months passed, and Lily made zero effort to reconcile. In fact, she went out of her way to rub it in, calling me to brag about her dates with one lawyer after another. I didn't care. There was no going back. I had to return Regina to her mother for school, though. She later told me Lily was rarely home before midnight, always dressed to impress, always trashing me. Told our daughter she should aim to marry someone rich, someone classy, not like her father. Regina defended me every time. Said she wanted to go back to Oak Forest, back home. Now I was locked in a cell, and Lily probably thought she'd won. But jail wouldn't break me. It would give me time. Time to think. Time to plan. On Thursday, 2 guards called me out. "You've got a video call," they said. With my lawyer? I asked. Nope, one replied, pushing me inside a small room. Sit down. You're not getting justice. You're getting judgment. They slammed the door behind me. I shouted for a minute, pacing, angry and alert. Then the door opened again. 6 inmates stepped in. I knew what was about to happen. I wouldn't, I warned. You'll regret it. One lunged. I broke his nose. The rest rushed me. I kicked, punched, slammed bodies into walls, but the biggest one got behind me, wrapped an arm around my neck, and choked me out. I woke up in the infirmary, bloodied, bruised, and worse. I didn't need anyone to tell me what they'd done. Sunlight filtered in. I'd been unconscious all night. A nurse approached. I glared at her, seething with rage. Not at her, but the entire corrupt system that took my daughter, emptied my bank account, and threw me in jail while my ex lived it up in a mansion. I'm not here to hurt you, she said calmly. You've been through hell. I can help if you'll let me. I softened. Sorry. She nodded, then brought me breakfast and unbuckled one hand so I could eat. Thanks, I said. You're welcome. After a moment, I asked, can I request a visit from an inmate? Randall Turner. We go way back. She gave a vague, I'll see what I can do, and left. But later that afternoon, Ringer walked in. Holy crap, he muttered when he saw me. I gave him the rundown about the ambush, the guards who set it up, and the 6 inmates. I need their full names, I said. No nicknames, first and last. He looked concerned. Well, what are you planning? An eye for an eye with a twist. He nodded. He knew that look in my eye. He'd seen it before. I'll get the names, he said. He came back the next day with a list. You sure you want to go this route? The less you know, the better. All right, he said. But I know how this ends. Sunday brought a surprise, and not a pleasant one. Lily showed up, and she brought Regina. Lily spoke first, smirking. Looks like you're making friends in here. What do you want? I growled. Regina insisted we come. Thought maybe you'd be ready to apologize, be reasonable. Hell no. And don't you dare throw that disgusting accusation about me and my daughter around again. You know it's a lie. She's a little too attached to you, don't you think? You're disgusting, I snapped. Go back to your lawyer boyfriends. Maybe they'll screw some sense into you. Oh, they already have, she said, grinning. Get out. Send in my daughter. I'm done with you. She smirked as she left, thinking she'd won something, but all she did was fan the flames. Regina walked in and froze when she saw me, bandaged and beaten. Daddy, don't cry, honey. I've had worse. You look like you were in a wreck. I'll heal, but I need you strong, okay? I hate her, she said through tears. For what she did to you, for lying about you, for making me stay with her. I know. Don't call me Regina anymore, she said. What? I go by Gina now. I'm done being her daughter. I smiled. You're more like me than you know. I take that as the highest compliment, she replied, wiping her eyes. After a moment, I leaned in. Can you do something for me? Anything, Dad. I handed her the folded list Ringer had brought. She tucked it in her bra without hesitation. Give that to Uncle Ken. Tell him to come see me. ASAP. She nodded. We didn't need to say anything more. We both knew what was coming. My brother Ken was 3 years younger than me. We both grew up under the same violent alcoholic father, but I did what I could to shield him, took the hits so he didn't have to. He was always the smart one, drawn to computers and games. He escaped through screens. I survived through fists and grit. Ken visited me the following Tuesday. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened. Damn, he said. This looks better than I imagined. You should have seen it last Friday. We shared a laugh, then switched into the private language we'd made up as kids to talk without our parents understanding. Regina, sorry Gina, gave me the list, he said. I've started digging. What do you need? Find out where their wives or girlfriends live. He blinked, then muttered in English, Oh, crap. I leaned in and continued in our code. Once you have the info, pass it to Gummy, but not with the list. Just tell him to come see me. Gummy was a childhood friend from our old neighborhood, still lived in the same house on the south side. I'll handle it, Ken said. Anything else? Just don't disappear. I could use a familiar face now and then. Think you're getting out anytime soon? Not unless I suddenly start apologizing. And you know that's not happening. He smiled. Still the stubborn big brother. And that stubbornness kept you from Dad's fists. He didn't argue. By the end of the week, I was back in general population. Ringer had already spread word that something big was coming. The guards and the six who jumped me kept glaring, their looks saying, "Stay in your lane." But they had no idea the storm headed their way. A few days later, Gummy visited. Straight to the point. "Ken gave me the info. What do you want done?" "You heard what they did?" "Yeah." "Then return the favor, but target their women. No DNA, no traces. Use Steely Dan or one of his flexible cousins." He nodded. Understood without needing details. "All on the same day, same time. Make sure the message gets passed to them. Don't mess with Texas." "I'll bring in some help," he said, then left. A week passed. Quiet, too quiet. Then Tuesday came. I noticed the two guards who'd set me up weren't on shift. Strange for midweek. One of the six looked shaken. That's when I knew it had happened. I told Ringer to spread the message. Don't mess with Texas. By afternoon, half the inmates were calling me Tex again. The six, they kept their distance, but one finally approached, seething. "You sick bastard," he hissed. "My girl left me. Said she was scared of what might happen if she stayed. Said someone told her, 'Don't mess with Texas.'" I stared him down, cool as ice. "Sounds like smart advice. I told you not to touch me. Now your women know what it feels like. An eye for an eye, with a twist." He looked ready to explode. I leaned in. "Next time, it'll be their mothers." His face went pale. He turned and stormed off. Later that day, the two guards came at me. "You think you're untouchable? We'll make your life hell." I didn't flinch. "Might want to warn your wives. They could be next, who knows? They might even enjoy it." One guard snapped and threw a punch. I didn't fight back. I let him keep swinging until another officer pulled him off. Inmates saw everything. Cameras, too. Back in the infirmary, Beth, my nurse from before, greeted me. "Well, look who's back." I didn't lay a hand on him. "I know. We've got witnesses this time. He's probably out of a job. One less scumbag on payroll." "Careful," she said. "Even the bad guards keep worse people away from you. He didn't protect me last time. He let it happen." She patched me up again. Said I'd need to stay overnight. I half smiled. "Let me guess, you just wanted another look at this beat-up face." She shook her head, amused. "Try not to get hit so often, Tex." The guard who beat me was suspended, pending investigation. His partner kept glaring at me, but didn't say a word. Maybe the message had sunk in. Don't mess with Texas. 3 weeks passed without a visit from Gina. I started to wonder what was going on, until Ken showed up and told me the reason. Lily was refusing to bring her. That lit a fire in me all over again. At the end of the month, Lily finally came. She nearly left Gina at home, but my daughter refused to get out of the car. Not even Lily's screaming could move her. When she walked in, she was already fuming. "Your daughter's impossible," she snapped. "She barely talks to me. Just like you. Stubborn." "You said that last time," I said calmly. "Why not ask the judge to transfer custody to me? I'll gladly take her off your hands." "Not a chance. She needs a good school and real opportunity." She had that in Oak Forest, and she liked it. "It's nothing compared to Wilmette. She's getting a first-rate education and meeting the right kind of people. Our daughter doesn't need connections. She needs character. She'll make her own way." "You're too stubborn to see the bigger picture." "No, Lily. We've had this argument 100 times. Let's not waste breath pretending either of us will change." She folded her arms. "I came here for my spousal support. Bills are piling up." "Well, you'll have to cover them on your own paycheck. I'm in jail. No paycheck, no support. That's how it works in the real world." "You have to pay." "No, I don't. What are they going to do? Throw me in jail?" I smirked. "Too late for that." She looked desperate. "What about the bills? Maybe one of your boyfriends from the firm can help. You've got enough of them." That ended the conversation. She stormed out. Gina walked in a moment later. I lit up just seeing her. "Wow, you really pissed her off," she said. "She thinks I should pay her while I sit in here. Not happening. How are you holding up, Dad?" "I'm good. Don't worry about me. How about you? Still not talking to your mom?" "Only when I have to," she said. "So, when are you getting out?" "Honey, unless I apologize to that sorry excuse for a judge, it's 6 months. And I'm not backing down unless he gives you back to me." She looked down. "My birthday's next month. I wish you could be there, but I understand. I wouldn't want you to give up your principles." That stung more than any punch I'd taken. Then she said something that reminded me why I stood my ground. "If you don't have principles, you've got nothing. Dr. Hodges at school told me that. He quoted Lincoln, 'Important principles may and must be inflexible.' At Dr. Hodges? Yeah, he's been helping me. My grades were slipping, and the school counselor stepped in. He's been great. Of course, Wilmette had a psychologist on staff. Rich schools always do. Your mom seems pretty mad at you, too. She is, but I ignore her. That just makes her madder. And I'm fine with that. I nodded. In a couple months, she might be mad at the bank instead. The mansion won't stay hers much longer. Jumbo loans don't wait forever. But Dad, won't foreclosure ruin your credit? I usually pay in cash. That house is the only thing I ever financed. Seriously? Even with all your properties and businesses? I used profits from one to buy the next. Gina's eyes lit up. I always respected you, Dad, but now I respect you even more. That smile made the whole visit worth it. The following week, word got around that the guard who beat me had been fired. The video footage showing me not fighting back made it hard to argue otherwise. A few days later, the second guard disappeared too. Transfer or termination, I didn't care. He was gone. Other inmates started thanking me. Apparently, those two had built a long list of enemies. After that, the respect I had inside grew. More guys started calling me Tex, and for the first time since I got here, I didn't have to watch my back constantly. As for the 6, they were still bitter. One guy's wife had filed for divorce, and 3 others got dumped by their girlfriends. Maybe pain really is a good teacher. With the threat of further retaliation and my growing influence, they knew better than to test me again. A couple of weeks later, I got summoned to the video room for a meeting with the judge. I told the guard flatly, not without my lawyer. But the judge is waiting, he said. I don't care. Tell him to reschedule. I'm wide open. 3 days later, they set the meeting for the following week. I requested 30 minutes alone with my attorney beforehand. They agreed. When we finally sat down, my lawyer said he hadn't received any information about the meeting. That felt off. We'd play it by ear. When the judge finally appeared on screen, it was obvious he wasn't pleased I'd made him wait. I didn't care. He still struck me as a man too full of himself. My lawyer opened. Your Honor, may I ask what this meeting concerns? We received no documentation. This didn't require counsel, the judge replied. I simply wanted to see if Mr. D'Angelo was ready to apologize for his courtroom outburst. I signaled to my lawyer, who leaned in. I whispered, My client declines to apologize, he said, and requests instead that you issue him a formal apology and grant him primary custody of his daughter. The judge's jaw clenched. I stand by my ruling, and I have nothing to apologize for. Then this meeting is over, my lawyer said. If my client changes his mind, we'll reach out. One more thing, the judge interrupted. Your client isn't fulfilling his obligations. When will he resume paying mortgage and spousal support? I whispered again. He won't be making payments while incarcerated, my lawyer said. But the house is in foreclosure, the judge barked. Not my house, I said. That's my ex-wife's mansion. I never wanted it. You're destroying your credit and losing your equity, he warned. Small price to watch my ex fall from her pedestal. Then I pushed it. Maybe all her special friends can pool together to cover the bills. I'm sure her fan club includes at least a dozen of you. That struck a nerve. You piece of South Side trash, the judge roared. I cut him off. If I'm wrong about you and my ex-wife, I apologize. I just don't understand why someone so uninvolved seems so invested. I stood and walked to the door. Behind me, I heard him snap. Counselor, your client just earned 2 more months. If he keeps it up, I'll make sure his life behind bars is hell. I smirked. Even the guard who came to escort me looked stunned. He'd clearly been listening. Back in my cell, adrenaline still pulsed through me. Clearly, Lily had said something to her friends, and one of them had whispered in the judge's ear. It was all one big corrupt mess, but they'd get theirs soon. That Sunday, Lily showed up. Of course, Gina insisted on tagging along. Thank God. You really pissed off the judge again, Lily said, arms crossed. Got yourself 2 more months. When are you going to learn? You can't beat the system. Just stop talking, Lily, I muttered. All I want is to see my daughter, that's it. It's Regina, she snapped. I turned my back on her and let her rant. Eventually, she stormed out. When Gina came in, she was all smiles. Someone's happy, I said. Of course, I get to see my dad. Is that all? Well, I've got a surprise, but you have to trust me. Always, I said. She held up a folded piece of paper. Will you sign this without reading it? I raised an eyebrow. What is it? You'll find out later, trust me. I laughed and signed it. Then she got serious. Mom said you added time to your sentence. Is it true? Yeah. Judge and I had another little moment. Well, whatever you said, he probably deserved it. We talked about school and her counselor, Dr. Hodges. She said he'd been a huge help. I had to admit I was impressed. Then she smiled again. Oh, and I've been ignoring Mom completely. It drives her nuts. I heard. Good for you. She's getting desperate now. Keeps trying to bribe me with shopping trips. I just walk away. I nodded. Well, in a few months, the bank's going to walk away with her mansion. Jumbo loans don't forgive missed payments. Won't that ruin your credit, Dad? I've never needed it. I pay in cash. That house is the only thing I ever financed. Gina stared. Seriously? That's bad. Thanks, sweetheart. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, Will you miss my birthday? I'll still be here, yeah, but I've got a present waiting for you. What is it? It's a surprise, so I guess we both have secrets. At the end of the visit, I asked her to have Greg, my right-hand man, come see me. I will, she promised. Love you, Dad. Love you too, Gina. Now I just had to hope Greg had taken care of the business I'd assigned before my arrest, because now I had a new mission. Gina's birthday gift, one she'd never forget. Greg visited later that week and confirmed he'd completed most of the tasks I had assigned. I also gave him one more job, arranging Gina's birthday surprise. After confirming the details, I asked him to pass some documents to Ken. If Ken had questions, he'd visit me. Otherwise, he was to coordinate with Gummy. Gummy understood my mind better than anyone. I knew he'd carry out the next phase flawlessly while I remained clean in jail. By month's end, my reputation among inmates had skyrocketed. Word of my defiance against the judge had spread, likely through the guards, and now everyone was calling me Tex. Even the 6 backed off. One had a wife who filed for divorce, and 3 others had been dumped. They'd learned the hard way what crossing me meant. Eventually, Lily showed up unannounced. I nearly walked out, but she begged for help, claiming the house was about to be foreclosed. I reminded her that it was her house, something I never wanted, and told her to ask one of her many friends for support. When she brought up money again, I asked why she had lied to the judge about me and Gina. She had no response, just tears. I left her in that room, broken and silent. To my surprise, I was immediately called back in. This time, Gina was there. She said she'd insisted on coming and didn't want her mother to visit without her. I apologized for missing her birthday, but let her know I had a gift. I'd transferred ownership of the Oak Forest home into a trust for her. Once she became an adult, it would be fully hers. Her reaction told me everything. Whatever surprise she had planned, this solved a major piece of it. She seemed genuinely happy and mentioned her school counselor, Dr. Hodges, again. Something about the way she spoke of him made me wonder if she had a small crush. I made a mental note to meet the guy when I got out. Soon after, Gummy paid me a visit. Everything was in place. Video footage had been collected. Cleaning crews, paid well under the radar, had planted cameras inside the law firm's offices. What we captured was explosive. Married lawyers, paralegals, even politicians, including the judge himself, caught on camera, boasting about being above the law. Ken would upload the footage anonymously with a tagline, "Don't mess with Texas." The clips would be sent to news outlets, tabloid journalists, and social media channels. The media frenzy would be immediate. Damage control? Too late. Within days, buzz spread through the prison. Even inmates had caught wind of it. The phrase echoed through the halls, "Don't mess with Texas." And the smile on my face said it all. Eventually, one of the 6 approached me to apologize. His life had already started unraveling, and now he wanted peace. I accepted, but reminded him that strength doesn't equal safety. Respect does. A few days later, the judge summoned me again. My lawyer arrived just before the video call began. We both knew what was coming. The judge appeared on screen, furious, shouting accusations. He demanded to know if I was behind the leaks, claiming I'd orchestrated the whole thing. I stayed calm. He had no proof, and I reminded him that I'd been in jail for 4 months. When he threatened me, my lawyer recorded everything. The judge, in a fit of rage, shouted promises of retaliation, unaware he was handing us legal ammunition. That recording would soon become another nail in his career. A few days later, Lily returned for another visit. I wasn't exactly thrilled to see her. She was furious, blaming me for losing her job after her name and photo had spread all over the news. But the truth was, she'd done that to herself. Her choices had led to this, not mine. She was desperate, jobless, and unemployable. Even her hometown had turned its back on her after local news ran headlines about her involvement in the Chicago scandal. Her parents were relocating to Florida just to escape the shame. She had nowhere to go, and apparently no one left. I reminded her that she wasn't exactly winning the popularity contest. Her parents avoided her, and so did her daughter. She begged me not to take Gina from her, but I made it clear. Once I was out, I'd petition for full custody. With her public image in ruins, I was confident the court would reconsider who the better parent really was. She was falling apart, and I didn't hold back reminding her of what she'd destroyed. By the end of the conversation, she broke down crying. I asked if she'd brought Gina, and she snapped, saying Gina was with that doctor. I ended the visit right then. This time, though, I didn't walk away with a smirk. I felt something close to pity. The very next day, a fire broke out on the top floor of a 5-story downtown office building. The rest of the structure was saved by the sprinkler system, but the top floor was destroyed. I couldn't help but smile when I saw the news. Ken visited shortly after and confirmed that the law firm's off-site server had completely melted down. They'd lost everything. Years of legal records, confidential files, all gone. Another small victory. A couple of weeks later, Gina came to visit, glowing with excitement. She'd finally finished the surprise she'd been working on. It turned out she'd filed for and been granted emancipation, with her legal adult status and the Oak Forest house placed in a trust. She could now live independently. Lily was being evicted from Wilmette, and Gina had chosen to return to the neighborhood she considered home. She'd reconnected with friends from school and was ready to start fresh. The house had given her a path forward, and she'd taken it. She explained that Dr. Hodges, her school counselor, had helped her through the process. Naturally, I was suspicious. I didn't like the idea of a grown man getting too close to my daughter. When Gina left the room to get him, I braced for a confrontation. But when they returned, I was stunned. Dr. Hodges wasn't a man at all. It was Alexandria Frederico, or Freddie, a woman from my old neighborhood. We'd gone to school together, though we ran in different circles. She remembered me as Tex, my old nickname, and clearly hadn't forgotten my reputation. Still, she'd become an impressive, educated woman. And she had clearly been looking out for Gina. She'd figured out who Gina's father was early on, but didn't connect the dots until she heard about my jail time. Once she knew for sure, she stepped in more intentionally, helping Gina through the tough times and ultimately supporting her emancipation process. Gina had become like family to her. We spoke for a while about the past, about Oak Forest, and how maybe, if Lily had been content with a simpler life, things could have turned out differently. It was bittersweet. But Gina had found her strength and stability, and that gave me peace. Before they left, I pulled Freddie aside and thanked her for everything she'd done. She said she was happy to help, that Gina meant a lot to her, and joked that once I got out, I owed them dinner. I promised I would, assuming I ever got out of this place. The next 2 weeks passed without much change, just the daily grind of jail life. The only highlights were Sunday visits from Gina and Freddie. I was grateful for how much Freddie had stepped in for Gina during all of this. Gina told me they'd been furnishing the Oak Forest house, buying new furniture and decor. When I asked where the money was coming from, she casually said it was from Uncle Ken. After all, there was money set aside for her needs. She made it clear that Freddie hadn't paid for anything. I only had one concern, that the house didn't turn into a floral wonderland. She assured me my man cave in the basement was untouched. That space had always been my retreat, especially living with 2 women. After they left, I found myself reflecting. Gina was now legally an adult. In a few short years, she'd be off to college and then building her own life. I knew the clock was ticking. Eventually, I'd be on my own again, and I hoped to meet someone who appreciated a simpler, honest kind of life. Then, out of nowhere, Lily showed up again. I nearly walked out when I saw her, but she stopped me. She was furious, demanding to know if I knew what Gina had done. I did, of course. Gina had emancipated herself. Lily had just found out and was shocked to learn her daughter had moved out and no longer had to live with either of us. She wanted to know where Gina had gone and accused me of encouraging it. I told her the truth. Gina had done it on her own, with help from her school counselor. She was stunned when I told her Gina had moved back to Oak Forest. She questioned how that would affect her education. I explained that Gina would be returning to her old school in the fall, the one where she had friends and felt accepted, unlike Wilmette, where she'd always felt like an outsider. Lily defended her decision, saying she just wanted the best for Gina. But I reminded her that parenting is more than status and academics. It's about example. And hers hadn't been a great one. There was a moment of silence. Lily admitted not everything had been bad between us, but we both knew where it ended. I wished her well and hoped she'd find what she was looking for, knowing now that it clearly hadn't been me. I left her sitting there, full of regret. Finally, my release day arrived. I was called into court, not video this time, but in person. Gina and Freddie were there, along with Lily. I expected the same judge, but a new one walked in. Maybe the old one had been removed. The new judge reviewed my file and asked if I had anything to say. I told him I'd served my original sentence, and 2 extra months. He noted I could have been released earlier had I apologized. I told him I chose not to. Apologizing to someone who didn't deserve it didn't sit right with me. He called me stubborn. I said I preferred strong-willed, and that it had served me well in life and business. He then addressed the unresolved financial issues tied to the divorce. My lawyer stepped in and offered to pay $20,000 in full, covering the months missed while I was incarcerated, on the condition that all obligations would be considered settled. Lily immediately protested, claiming she was still owed ongoing payments until Gina turned 18. The judge cut her off, reminding her that he, not she, was running the courtroom. My lawyer broke down the math. I had paid the initial support, mortgage, and insurance before jail. I also continued to cover Gina's needs and insurance throughout my sentence. The only things I didn't pay were spousal support and the mortgage during the months I wasn't earning an income, because I legally couldn't. Now that I was out, I'd be back to work. But it was clear I wasn't going to be paying for Lily's lifestyle anymore. The courtroom was still when the judge glanced at the financial summary and spoke up, noting that 8 months behind bars should have resulted in at least $16,000 in unpaid spousal support, not including mortgage dues. But my attorney stood ready. He pointed out that the divorce judgment clearly stated support was required only until the minor child becomes a legal adult. Our daughter had been emancipated for 3 months, and the house had been foreclosed around the same time. With no loan in place, there was no mortgage to pay. The numbers on the table were accurate. $19,782 owed. We offered $20,000 in full to settle all debts and sever all financial ties between Lily and me. The judge reviewed the transcript, studied the figures, and nodded slowly, admitting he couldn't dispute the plain facts before him. He'd verify everything, but assuming it all checked out, the settlement would stand. He paused, then looked at both of us, Lily and me, and reminded us that while Gina was now legally independent, she was still young and vulnerable. She'd need us both to be respectful, even if we weren't together. Then, locking eyes with me, he asked if I could commit to civility not just with Lily, but with everyone involved in the fallout of our failed marriage. I agreed. So did Lily. And when the judge turned to the gallery, Gina corrected him gently. "It's Gina," before also giving her consent. With that, he stated that pending validation of the figures, the matter was closed. I was free to go. My lawyer thanked the court, and we stood to leave. Gina rushed up and hugged me with everything she had. Freddie stood nearby, watching with quiet pride. Across the room, Lily glared. Then she marched over, seething. "20,000, that's it?" she hissed. I reminded her she'd chosen her new crowd over me. Surely one of her well-connected friends could help her now. She snapped, furious, demanding to know how I could abandon her like this. I stayed calm, reminding her of the judge's request for civility. For Gina's sake. "She's called Regina," she barked. "She's our daughter," I said evenly. Lily's voice dropped, almost panicked. She had nothing left. No job, no home. She was out of options. So I offered her one last olive branch, free rent for 6 months in one of my Southside units, to give her a chance to reset her life. She recoiled at the thought of returning to the South Side, but didn't reject the offer outright. Turning to Gina and Freddie, I asked if they were ready to go. They nodded. I told Freddie I owed her dinner. She smiled, remembering. I suggested RPM Italian. I'd made a reservation after my release was confirmed. It was a step up from jail food, and I wanted to do something right. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Lily stiffen. That used to be our place. The reservation was for 4, so I casually asked Freddie to call her husband and see if he could join us. But her face changed. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a quiet stillness. Gina spoke softly, explaining Freddie's husband had passed away 5 years ago. She apologized for never telling me. Confused, I asked Freddie directly. She was still wearing her wedding ring after all. She explained gently that her husband had been killed in a crash on the Eisenhower, hit by a semi. She'd never been able to take the rings off. They were her last connection to him. She acknowledged it might seem strange for a psychologist, but grief doesn't always follow logic. I apologized sincerely for my assumption and invited her to join us anyway, hoping to ease the awkwardness. She agreed. That moment reminded me how little I'd paid attention to her own story. I vowed to do better. Starting now, I'd show up for her, not just as Gina's father, but as a real friend. Dinner was incredible. Just wearing normal clothes and eating real food felt surreal, but 8 months of jail changes you. Freedom had a strange texture now, light, unfamiliar, but welcome. By the end of the meal, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. I asked Freddie, Alexandria, if, when she felt ready, she'd let me take her out on a real date. No rush, no pressure. Just an honest invitation. Gina chimed in immediately, promising to keep us connected whether Freddie liked it or not. Freddie laughed and said she wouldn't have it any other way. She shared something then, how she and her late husband never had kids. Between school and starting his financial business, it hadn't been the right time. Having Gina in her life had been healing in a way she hadn't expected. I told her I was grateful beyond words. As we left, Gina asked if I was ready to see our old house. Anything would beat the steel and concrete box I'd been calling home. When we arrived, I was stunned. The house looked better than I'd ever seen it. Fresh paint, neat landscaping, clean and cared for. Inside, it felt warm, different but familiar, and it finally felt like a true home. That's when emotion hit me. I teared up, me, the hardened ex-con, crying in the doorway. Freddie noticed and called my name softly. I wiped my eyes and told her I felt like I was finally home. She stepped closer, removed her wedding rings, and smiled. "I think I'm ready," she said. I smiled back, and we embraced, two people finally turning the page. In the end, 10 lawyers, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and 1 judge saw their careers and marriages implode from the chain of events that started with my divorce. Whether you call it stubbornness or conviction, sometimes standing your ground pays off. The real win? Gina found a new family. Eventually, she got 2 siblings, twins. We named them Frederick and Alexis, after the woman who helped rebuild our lives. And Lily? She married a wealthy lawyer. She got the prestige she craved. Big house, high status, the works. But her new husband treats her like a prop, not a partner. He cheats, controls, and keeps up appearances. I hope that's what she wanted. As for me, I finally have peace. And this time, it's real. Looking back, I never imagined rock bottom would be the place I found my footing again. Jail didn't just strip me of my freedom, it stripped me of everything false. All that remained was grit, love for my daughter, and a stubborn refusal to break. And you know what? That was enough. Gina, my daughter, my legacy, taught me more about strength than I ever taught her. Watching her fight for her own freedom while I fought for mine reminded me of the man I used to be. Before marriage, before betrayal, I raised her to stand tall, speak truth, and walk her own road. And she did, even when the system tried to silence her. That's how I know she's going to be just fine. Freddie surprised me. She came into our lives quietly, but left a permanent mark. Maybe that's how real people do it. They don't flash or brag. They just show up when it counts. Somewhere between late-night jail visits and rebuilding Gina's life, Freddie helped rebuild mine, slowly, gently, authentically. And when she took off that ring, I saw not an ending, but a new beginning. My business is back on track. I kept the old properties and bought a few more. I fixed up the Oak Forest home with my own hands, sanded the banisters, painted the walls, even rewired the basement. It was the first time in years I felt in control of something again. The twins, Frederick and Alexis, came into our lives like lightning. Unexpected, powerful, full of noise and wonder. Gina loves them like crazy, watching her hold them, comfort them, protect them. I see the future in her eyes, a better one. As for Lily, I no longer waste energy hating her. What we had burned out long ago and what she chased after, well, she got it. I don't know if she's happy now. I don't think she knows either. But that's no longer my concern. I've made peace with my past, not because it deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved freedom. So yeah, I'm Tex again. The name stuck, and these days it feels less like a relic of my youth and more like a badge earned the hard way. I'm still the guy who doesn't back down, doesn't take orders from people who never lifted a finger to earn their place. But I'm also the guy who cooks pancakes on Sundays, who reads bedtime stories, and who laughs more than he fights. This time, I'm living on my terms. And this time, I'm home for good. I remember the moment things shifted for us. It wasn't some big dramatic event, just a peaceful morning walk by the lake, the first light breaking across the sky. Natalie had wanted us to spend more time together since the kids left for college. The air was cool, the scent of the lake mixed with the rustling leaves. I wondered when we started needing reminders to reconnect. We walked to the dock, hand in hand, the silence saying more than words. I glanced at her, noticing the lines that had appeared over the years. She was still beautiful, and in that moment, I wished we hadn't lost anything. But under the calm, there was an unease. Something unresolved. The dock stretched ahead, mirroring the unknowns of our relationship. My eyes wandered to the parking lot, spotting my 2013 Mustang Boss 302, gleaming in the sunlight. It brought a sense of comfort, but also a reminder of another love I may have neglected. I tightened my grip on Natalie's hand, trying to focus on the shimmering reflections of the lake instead. The piers were bustling with activity, games, food, entertainers. There were jugglers, stilt walkers, musicians, and, unfortunately, mimes. I dislike mimes. We had no set plans, just a day to be together and reflect. For me, we hadn't lost anything. Our once fiery romance had settled into a steady warmth, something we could nurture for the long haul. Natalie, though, seemed to think we needed that early passion back. We weren't as young as before, but my love hadn't faded. In fact, it had deepened. Leaving her now would be far more painful than it would have been years ago. Natalie thought our passion had faded, but I felt it was more about doubt clouding our connection. I led her closer to the water as a mime approached, and I felt a bit of satisfaction as we avoided him. "Let's take a boat tour," Natalie laughed, her voice lighter than it had been in a long time. I eyed the boat with skepticism. It looked barely seaworthy. The captain had a greasy smile, and the sailor was clumsy enough to trip on flat surfaces. The boat, named Guppy, seemed ancient, like a relic from another era. I wasn't exactly eager to get on. "Come on, Rob," Natalie urged. "I need my big, strong husband to protect me from the sea." The captain tried to reassure me. "Just a quick tour around the Great Lakes showing hidden islands and famous shipwrecks." "Will you show me where the Edmund Fitzgerald sank?" I asked. He looked at me like I was nuts. "No way. I've been on these waters since I was 12, and that place still gives me chills." Even Natalie seemed taken aback by my question. The sailor chimed in. "There are mysterious islands out here, some unmarked, some cursed. They say an old chief guards one. Strong winds keep anyone away." "But what about sinking?" I asked, still eyeing the rickety boat. "This thing doesn't look very seaworthy." The captain smiled. "This island is only dangerous in November. In summer, it's perfectly safe. But in a couple of months, it turns into hell. Strong winds that can strip the paint off, sudden 50-foot waves coming out of nowhere." "Wow. Have you seen one of those?" I asked. He gave me a look like I'd lost my mind. "If I had, I wouldn't be here talking to you." Natalie seemed oddly charmed by this gruff, fishy-smelling captain. "Rumor has it," he continued, "that a Native American shaman lives here, in love with the spirit of the Great Lakes. They say there's purple lightning and eerie screams in the fall. Some even think those conditions caused the Fitzgerald to sink. We won't go to its resting place, but maybe we'll sail close to the island." I nodded and paid for the tour. If I had to spend 3 hours with my unfaithful wife, it might as well be interesting. I glanced at the other passengers, a diverse mix. 4 young women had already begun giggling amongst themselves. 2 were attractive, the third was a tall blonde constantly checking her lipstick, and the fourth was a curvier woman dressed to hide her body but wearing a low-cut blouse. Nearby sat an ordinary man, about my age, average in every way. If I weren't me, I'd think he was me. There was also a light-skinned black woman sitting alone, attractive with her hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her loose clothes didn't reveal much, but her slender arms suggested she was fit. Opposite her, 2 nerdy guys were deep in conversation about what sounded like homework. The captain and his assistant started preparing the boat, and just as they were untying the ropes, 2 more men boarded. They handed the captain some cash and settled near the women. Both were big and young. One carried himself like he owned the place, while the other seemed to be his follower. I noticed Natalie watching them with interest. I moved to the other side of the boat, and after a moment, she joined me. "Nat, maybe you should go back," I said. "Why, Rob?" she asked. "I'm starting to see your point. Maybe we have grown apart. I thought everything was fine, that we still loved each other." "But we are still the same people," she said. "We've made mistakes, but today is about getting back to what matters. remembering why we fell in love, leaving the past behind and stepping into the future together. She seemed sincere, almost pleading. If we are different, I started. Maybe we should do what Steve and Eddie did. Rob, we don't need that, she said. Our situation is different. Edith is miserable, aged beyond her years. We just need to get to know each other again, to understand who we've become. She hugged me, her hand brushing my cheek like she used to when we first started dating. I sighed, realizing how long it had been since she'd done that. It's amazing how much small gestures can mean. I wanted to talk to you today, she said, but maybe it's better to wait. Let's just enjoy ourselves and see if the captain's spooky tour of the Great Lakes can entertain us. Might as well get it over with, I said. I'm not in the mood for any games. Just tell me if it's bad news. Rob, when two people spend so much time together, sometimes they experience life differently, she started. So we've drifted apart, I interrupted. And you want a divorce. Since the kids are in college, it's a good time, right? She looked horrified. Rob, why would you think that? I want us to be together, she said, taking my hands. We've raised two wonderful kids, made our share of mistakes, but you're still the person I want to spend my life with. And I'm not sure I want to be with someone who keeps taking another man's side over mine, I shot back. Are you jealous of the captain? She laughed, squeezing my hand tighter. Rob, I wanted to tell you that we've raised our kids, the mortgage is under control, and we're not even 50 yet. We're in the clear. But I think we have different visions of what's next. You seem ready to keep saving money and working until you retire at 65. That's what normal people do, I said. She gave me a sharp look. That's why normal people grow old without living. Today is the beginning of something new, Rob. I don't want a divorce. I want us to get to know each other again. I want you to cut back at work, use your vacation time. Let's travel, hike, visit places, and fall in love with each other all over again. Before I could reply, the boat rumbled to life as the guppy pulled away from the dock. It wasn't a smooth ride, but the captain and his mate were clearly used to it. As we moved away from the shore, I tried to get used to the boat's motion. Not a car, I reminded myself. Lake Superior is vast, the largest freshwater lake by area, big enough that getting lost would mean days before anyone found us. The captain talked about the lake covering over 36,000 square miles and touching 3 states and another country. But don't worry, folks, he said with a grin. I know this lake like my bathroom. Most passengers laughed, including Natalie, but it didn't amuse me. The captain had a strong, fishy smell, and I doubted he knew his bathroom that well. Or maybe the lake was his bathroom, which would explain the smell. For the first hour, the captain's stories captivated me. I noticed his assistant, Gilbert, glancing at the sky repeatedly. The guppy's ride was never smooth, but after about 80 minutes, the water grew rougher. When we started, the sun was high, but clouds gradually moved in. Now, the sky was covered with dark, threatening clouds. Gil had been watching them for a while, clearly concerned. Sorry, folks, the captain said. We're near a mysterious island I warned you about. The waters around it are unpredictable. We can't see it yet, but Lake Superior is acting up. Maybe I shouldn't have talked about it. At first, I thought he was exaggerating to cover up his poor seamanship. Any sailor should watch the weather. Even Gil had noticed the clouds. But just as the captain spoke, lightning struck close to the boat. Heavy raindrops started to fall, and we all hurried into the cramped cabin. Below deck, the weather got worse, and the boat began rocking. I have to admit, the captain and Gil did their best and probably saved us from sinking. The small boat rocked, and without the crew's courage, we might have been lost. Looking at the worried faces around me, it was clear we all regretted boarding the guppy. I heard a few passengers voice concerns about the boat's poor condition and the captain's fishy smell. Gil didn't inspire much confidence either. Now, our lives were in their hands. I'll sue, one of the women said. Sue who? Asked the ordinary-looking guy. The captain probably owns this boat, and it's all he has. If it sinks, what are you going to get? Maybe a useless wreck? Plus, you'd probably be fined for polluting the lake, added one of the nerds. The other nerd turned pale and ran to the kitchen sink, vomiting loudly. He may have been the only one to throw up, but he wasn't alone in feeling miserable. As the boat rose and crashed into waves, everyone screamed and prayed for it to end. Are we near that island you mentioned? I asked, terrified. No, said the captain. It's at least half an hour away. Time seemed to stretch, and my feelings were all over the place. Though it felt like hours, I checked my watch and saw it had only been 5 minutes. The boat wasn't just moving up and down anymore. It was shifting in every direction. The bow pointed up, down, sideways, and we were thrown around the cabin as if by an invisible force. Natalie clung to me, and I tried to reassure her. Our words were just scattered phrases. We're bouncing off the walls, I said, trying to sound calm. Wow, that was a big one. Then we slid to the floor and I shouted, "They're keeping us moving forward." I tried to stay brave, mainly for her. The muscular guy screamed like a little kid, and I couldn't blame him. He was young and scared. We all were. The nerds screamed, the women screamed, and I noticed two people, one who looked like me and a single woman, holding on strategically, finding the strongest spots. Suddenly, we crashed into something hard, followed by a deafening noise. I saw a large hole in the opposite wall, water pouring in. "We need to get out of here," I yelled. "Everyone on deck!" With a hole like that, we were sinking fast. The muscular guy pushed past the women and ran out. I helped two women to their feet and got Natalie out onto the deck. The captain hadn't insisted on life jackets, so I began searching for them. "What now?" the muscular guy asked, clearly frightened. "I'm trying to find life jackets," I replied. "Me too," he said, opening cabinets. The captain and Gil were trying to patch the hole and contact help. I took out my phone, but there was no signal. The rain had eased, but the wind still tossed us around. We were all terrified. One of the women found the life jackets. "I found them!" she shouted. The muscular guy hurried over, pushed her aside, grabbed a jacket, and began handing them out. Then the boat hit something again, and the impact knocked us down. I saw the captain fly up and fall badly on his back. There was a sickening crack, and he lay motionless. We all held on to something, and Natalie clung to me, sobbing. The boat had stopped moving. I crawled to the captain and called for Gil. I checked for a pulse, but there was none. I looked at Gil and shook my head. "The captain is dead, isn't he?" whined the muscular guy. I nodded. "Oh, this is just great," he whined. "How are we supposed to get home now?" I looked around and noticed the boat had actually run aground. I climbed out and saw we were on a fairly large piece of land that we had stumbled upon during the storm. The others followed me out, and we found ourselves on a wide beach. "Gil, is there any way we can fix the hole in the boat?" I asked. He just stared at me. "Why are you asking him?" the muscular guy snapped. "Because he's the captain now, so he's in charge. We need a plan to figure out how to get off this island or signal for help," I replied. "We don't need to do any of that, Grandpa," he scoffed. "Everything is automated. Once the company notices they've lost contact with the boat, they'll come find us. All we have to do is wait. Besides, why trust this guy? He and the captain almost got us eliminated. Some captain he is." Ignoring him, I began walking along the beach. I noticed I was being followed and turned to see Gil, the muscular guy, and the quiet woman trailing me. The ordinary guy soon caught up. "Exploring the island?" he asked. I nodded. "We need to know what's here in case rescue doesn't come." There wasn't supposed to be a storm this afternoon. It was forecast for tonight and tomorrow afternoon. "George Ignatowski," he said, offering his hand. "Robert Sinclair," I replied, shaking it. "George, we can cover more ground if we split up. Gil and I will head east, and you and this lady can go west. Is your watch still working?" "Yes," he confirmed. "Let's meet back on the beach in an hour. We probably have about 3 to 4 hours until sunset, and the storm could start by then, if not sooner. We're looking for a cave or any natural formation to use as a quick shelter." He nodded, and we parted ways. As Gil and I walked, he seemed to snap out of his shock. "How do you know this is east?" he asked. "The sun sets in the west," I said. He nodded. "Learned that from a survival course?" "No, I watched a lot of westerns as a kid," I replied, smiling. "We found some rock formations that could work, but they needed some materials to make them suitable. There were many thin but strong trees and some large trees where we could cut long branches. From talking to Gil, I had a good sense of what supplies were available on the boat. After an hour, I knew what we needed to do to ride out the storm. I sent Gil back to the boat with a list of items to gather, while I returned to the beach to explain our findings. If George hadn't found a better spot, we'd use the one we had. Time was short, so we needed to move quickly. I was only gone for about an hour, and maybe it was just luck that I chose that path. This part of the area was a bit more secluded. Later, I learned they had decided on a safety in numbers approach, pairing up whenever someone needed to use the bathroom. Unfortunately, or perhaps intentionally, when Natalie needed to go, no other women were available, so she went with him. I heard them talking as I approached. I wasn't trying to be quiet until I recognized her voice. "But aren't you married?" he asked. "It's no secret," she said. "I've been exploring my options for a couple of years. A friend of mine got caught, so I decided to stop, but maybe now isn't the time to give it up." Then I heard a familiar sound and his groan. I knew what was happening, but seeing it was different. I crept closer and saw Natalie with him. She suddenly straightened up, almost as if she heard me, but she was just checking the beach to see if anyone was nearby. "Why did you stop?" he asked. We're just getting started, she replied, lowering her underwear and leaning forward. After a few minutes, he began to moan. Remember, those younger girls might be prettier, she said, but they won't do what I will. Since you're in charge now, I expect you to look out for me. If you do, I'll give you whatever you want. What about your husband? He muttered. What he doesn't know won't hurt him, she said. Just keep him busy. Send him on some errand to feel important. I thought I should have been shocked, but once she mentioned cheating on me for years, it all made sense. I understood why she suddenly wanted to rediscover our relationship. She had cheated with Eddie, and when Eddie got caught, she feared the same fate. That's why she acted like she wanted to rekindle things between us. It was all just to protect herself. What hurt most was how calculated she was, never considering me for a moment. Being practical, I pushed it aside. The storm was still coming. I walked away from the woods and approached the beach from the other side. There, I saw George and the woman. We met in the center, and George shook his head. We found a small cave, he said, but it's not big enough for all of us. The woman tugged his sleeve. Oh, yeah. We also found some trees with ripe berries. There were a lot of squirrels, too. Okay. Gil and I found a natural rock shelter. It should work for tonight. We'll need to use tarps and rope from the boat to make it windproof. We should start soon, I explained. No need for that, came a voice from behind me. While you were off exploring, we held an election. This is still America, and I'm in charge now. The two nerds, the muscle guy's friend, and the 4 other women nodded in agreement. So we didn't get to vote? Asked George. Wouldn't have mattered, said the muscular guy. There were 9 of us here and only 4 of you. I figured if no rescue came tonight, we could just sleep on the boat. No need to waste energy building a shelter when we had the boat. George and I shrugged and headed towards the spot I had found earlier. Hey, the muscular guy shouted. Where are you going? There's a storm coming, I said. We don't have time to waste on you. But I'm in charge, he insisted. We didn't vote for you, George said. You're not leading us. What about your wife? The guy shouted. Aren't you going to try to convince her to come or fight for her? You already said it, I replied. She's with you. I looked Natalie straight in the eyes, and she shuddered. I only fight for what's worth it. But Rob, Natalie began. George, the quiet woman, and I headed away from the beach. As we left, a buxom woman joined us. Dana, where are you going? One of the other women called out. Listen, Peggy, I know how this story ends, Dana said. 4 guys, 5 women, and I'm the odd one out. I'd rather take my chances with them. They have a plan and a reason for it, I hope. Once we arrived at the spot I found earlier, we introduced ourselves. The buxom woman was Dana. The quiet one was Ella. Ella didn't speak much because she didn't like explaining her accent. She called herself a crossbreed. Her father was half black and half Hispanic. Her mother was Irish, and Ella grew up in London. She was a librarian and proud of it. George, like me, was an engineer. He was mechanical, and I was in manufacturing. I explained my idea for strengthening our spot. It was at the bottom of a steep hill with a V-shaped notch that provided some shelter. My plan was to build a lean-to against the rock wall, blending it into the hillside. There were large rocks and fallen trees nearby to reinforce it once we settled in, especially to block the wind. Since the tarp was waterproof, my main concern was keeping the wind out. Gil arrived soon after, and I updated him. The tarps were larger and thicker than I expected, which was great. I sent him back for more supplies, while George started on the construction. Dana and I went looking for branches to use for the walls, and Ella went back to collect berries and anything else edible. When Ella returned with plenty of berries, I called her over and she smiled as she approached. I handed her the fishing rod. What should I use for bait? She asked in her careful accent. What? I said, pretending not to hear. She repeated her question, smiling. I still pretended not to hear. Dana walked over. George says we have enough posts for 2 layers of walls, she said. Is this because of my skin color? Ella asked. What? I said. I've asked you the same question 3 times and you didn't hear me, she said, looking hurt. Ella, that's silly, I replied. And I'm sorry you think I'm silly, she snapped. I want you to know. I couldn't help but laugh. Ella, I never meant you were silly, I said. I meant I was the silly one. She calmed down, studying me. I doubt you're silly, she said. And since we're following your plan, if I'm wrong, we're all in trouble. Ella, I kept asking you to repeat yourself because I love hearing you speak, I said. Your accent, your voice, everything. It's just magical. I could listen to you all day. We both blushed and turned away. Ella, I shouted as she took the fishing rod. Check the muddy spots for worms and try using them or some berries as bait. A few minutes later, she returned, pulling me towards a puddle. Attach this to my hook, she said. pointing to a fat worm. George began setting up, driving long posts into the hillside. From a distance, they were almost invisible, thanks to the angle George carefully selected. The next step was to drape a tarp over them and add another layer of posts to keep it secure against strong winds. I asked Gil to place a large, flat metal disc he had brought from the boat. In the center of the shelter, I added crumpled paper, wood chips, and pieces of dry wood, with some metal skewers above it, creating both a heat source and a stovetop. On his last trip, Gil brought several bottles of water and 3 cans of soda. Clouds started filling the sky. We all worked together to push a large rock and a split tree stump in front of the wall. We used smaller tarp pieces to make blankets, and life jackets were stretched out to serve as mattresses. Ella showed up with 3 beautiful fish as a finishing touch. "Look what I caught," she said proudly. "I'll take care of it," George offered. "I'll clean them." "Gil, help me with the first one," Ella added, smiling. I noticed the other 2 fish were still attached to the rods. After George took them from her, Ella walked over to me. "I think I'll stick to berries," she said. "Not really a sushi fan." "Well, not a sushi fan," I said, pointing to my makeshift stove. "How about this?" "What is that?" she asked, curious. "This is where we're cooking your fish," I said with a smile. "Smart man," she smiled back. "Maybe I'll try some after all." "Ella, we don't know how long we'll be here. We need more than just berries and greens to stay strong. Anytime we have protein, I need you to eat it. Fish, squirrel, whatever we find. Even if it doesn't taste great. Okay?" She nodded. "Rob?" she called. I turned to her. "I was just wondering," she said with a smile, "what fried crap might actually taste like." We both burst into laughter, drawing everyone's attention. Before we could explain, the first raindrops fell. We hurried inside our makeshift shelter. We left the damper behind the rocks open, but moved the log closer. After a few tries, I managed to get the fire started with my lighter. The small fire and open damper gave us light. I put Ella's cleaned fish on a spit and held it over the fire, turning them slowly. The smell of cooking fish was inviting. While we waited for the fish to cook, we took turns sharing more about ourselves. Dana had many questions. "I feel okay," she said. "Considering the situation, I feel pretty good. But why didn't we wait out the storm on the boat with everyone else?" "Because the boat is perched precariously on the same rocks that damaged its hull," I explained. "It's unstable. When the winds pick up and the tide comes in, the boat could easily be swept off the rocks." "You mean they could leave without us?" she asked. "Or go straight to the bottom of the lake," I said. "The lake's over 1,000 feet deep in some spots," Gil added. "What about your wife?" Ella asked. "Pretty sure she can swim," I said. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling fire as everyone looked away. "Listen, guys," I began. "Today was supposed to be about Natalie and me reconnecting. I didn't think we needed it. It was her idea. But a few hours ago, I caught her doing something unforgivable if she wanted to stay married to me. I also overheard her talking about cheating on me for years. So whether we leave this island or stay forever, our marriage is over. It wasn't love that made her want to get closer. It was fear of getting caught. Honestly, I'm glad I found out. Now I can move on and find someone better before it's too late. So forgive me. Bad trash is best taken out. Let's eat." We ate fish and berries, drank water and soda, and talked about other things, including our plans for the next day. Eventually, we all fell asleep to the sound of the wind and rain against the awning. Thankfully, our shelter held, keeping us warm and dry. The next morning, we all got up to start on the tasks we had planned the night before. Dana was cleaning and organizing the shed, Ella was fishing, and George was searching for small game and berries. Gil and I were going to work on creating a signal that could be seen by passing ships. Dana also wanted to visit her friends. After some brainstorming, Gil, George, and I came up with 2 practical ideas for signaling. One was to build a fire that could be ignited instantly to produce fire and smoke, visible from afar at night, while the smoke would be more noticeable during the day. We also decided to retrieve the large mirror from the boat's bathroom, which would be a good way to signal during the day without requiring fire or power. We decided to start with the mirror as we approached the beach. At first, we thought they were all still on the boat, but then we saw them huddled around a tree, trying to keep warm. Though the sun would eventually dry them out, they looked cold and miserable. Then we realized the boat had disappeared. It had sunk. They saw us as we noticed the boat was gone. Natalie and one of the young women staggered towards us, followed by one of the botanists. They all looked terrible. "Why didn't you tell us the boat would sink?" asked the botanist. "You knew, didn't you? How did you guys stay dry?" Natalie asked. I ignored her. Rob, we need to talk, honey, she said. I feel like you're angry. Okay, I messed up again. I didn't take your side. I was wrong. Gil, let's swim out and see how deep the boat is, I said. We can dry our clothes by the fire afterward. Hopefully they'll have something for us to eat when we get back. Everyone turned sharply towards us when I said this. Where are you getting your food? Asked the muscular guy, shivering. You took all the food from the boat, didn't you? Of course not, Gil replied. There's plenty of food on the island. You just need to know where to look and work together. Show us, Mr. Paish, Muscles demanded. We have work to do, I said. If you're part of the group now, you need to get up and figure things out. By the way, the forecast said it might rain today. What do you mean by working together? Asked one of the botanists. We all have different tasks, I explained. Some are cleaning our area, others are gathering food, and some of us are working on signaling ships. You took all the capable people, Muscles complained. That's unfair. You left me with useless women and nerds. I thought nerds were smart, but all these guys know are comics and Lord of the Rings. It's unfair. We should all regroup. I'll talk to our group at lunch and get their opinion, I said. Why don't you just tell them? He said. Because we don't have a leader, I replied. We discuss ideas and act on what we think will work. Everyone has a say. Why are you dry? Asked the blonde, her makeup smeared and her expression miserable. Our shelter is dry and protected from the wind, Gil said, and the fire kept us warm. Where did you find shelter? Muscles asked. We didn't find it, Gil said. We built it. Rob came up with the design, IG, that's George Ignikowski, constructed it, and Dana made it comfortable. Looks like we're with the wrong group, the blonde muttered. Gil and I dove into the water, swimming towards the rocky edge of the island. The boat was there, about 8 feet underwater. I took a deep breath and dove, but couldn't reach the mirror. Gil did better. He surfaced with a small grill. Not that I didn't like your cooking last night, he said. But this will make things easier. Another group began following us as we left. I turned and spoke to them. Less than 24 hours ago, you all made some bad choices, I said. You're lucky you didn't drown when the boat sank. I'll talk to my group about reuniting and we'll let you know. Natalie was still following me. Where are you going? I asked. With you. We're still married, remember? In the coldest voice I could muster, I said, yesterday, while you were with that guy, you said what I don't know won't hurt me. You were wrong, Nat. Now I know, and I'm ready to leave you behind. When we leave this island, we're getting a divorce. We're done. She stood there in shock as Gil and I walked away. Over the next 3 days, the two groups had minimal contact. My group thrived. We used long sections of pipe from the boat as makeshift snorkels, which allowed us to retrieve the mirror and other useful items. The only real contact between the two groups was through Dana, who visited her friends every day. She returned with disturbing stories. The other group is near starvation, she said. Troy, the muscle guy, has become a tyrant, ruling by fear. The women, except Natalie, want to leave but are scared of him. She looked at me. Natalie's depressed. She thinks you've abandoned her. I have, I said. What else am I supposed to do? How would you feel if you'd spent 20 years loving and supporting someone only to find out they've been cheating for years? I wish we could start the divorce here and now. Don't you want to talk to her? Find out why? Dana asked. Why does it matter? I said. She wasn't forced or blackmailed. Even if something like that happened, she could have come to me for help. The fact she did it more than once means I don't want to stay married to her. Not all men are cheaters and not all women are faithful. I'm just unlucky. But I'm not going to become bitter. I'll find someone who sees things the way I do. That morning, I woke early and went to check the pole we had mounted on the cliff for the large mirror. The other group roughly shared the island. They had the beach, we had the cliff. It worked out because most of the fish were around the cliff rather than the beach. As I neared the cliff, I saw Ella sitting on the edge, fishing in just her underwear, a lacy bra and underwear. She was slim but curvy, and I wondered why someone with her figure wore such loose clothes. Over the past few days, we'd kind of paired off, except for Gil. Dana and IG spent a lot of time together, while Ella seemed to seek my company. We sat together at meals, and she often snuggled with me at night when it was cold, though that's as far as it went. I wasn't sure I could say the same for Dana and IG, despite the age difference. I was about to approach Ella when I saw them, Troy, his friend, and the two botanists coming out of the forest. They went straight for Ella. Troy grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away. I ran over, pushing Troy off and standing between them. What are you doing here, old man? Troy sneered. This isn't your side of the island, I said. We have an unspoken agreement because we don't agree with each other. As I spoke, Natalie and the young women approached from one side, while Dana, IG, and Gil came from the other. This is the land, Gil, IG. And I chose while you sat on your steroid-pumped bum saying we were wasting time. This land is ours. It's Dana and Ella's. You belong on the other side, I said. Is this Gilligan's Island? Asked one of the women sarcastically. I'm tired of all this, Troy shouted. I'm tired of starving, thirsty, being sunbaked all day and freezing at night. I was wrong. I picked the wrong people. I thought with Dave and me being the strongest and the nerds being the smartest, we'd have it all. Turns out my nerds are useless. They have PhDs, but who needs theoretical physics on a deserted island? I thought having all the women would be an advantage, but somehow you kept the prettiest one for yourself. We need to share resources fairly. You and the other old man are clearly the brains, and your friend's a hunter. If I take her, I'll have food. Since you want her back, you'll build me a shelter or give me yours, right? No, I said. That's nonsense, he spat. Dana talks to her friends every day, and while they talk, I listen. They all want to join you. I've heard them complain about us forcing them to sleep with us and having no food. Dana snuck them bits of squirrel and fish and talked about all of you. I know Dana's with the other old guy, and you and the English girl haven't done anything, but you like each other. So decide if you're building me a shelter or giving me yours. No, I repeated. So you're not even going to try to get her back, he asked. I won't have to, I said. You won't take her away? Before I could answer, a huge fist hit me in the mouth, knocking me back. Guess you weren't smart enough to see that coming, Troy muttered. You might be smart, but it's time someone showed you your place. As I stood up, he hit me again, this time in the eye. Stop, a woman's voice called out. Don't hit him again. I'll go with you. I'll fish, pick berries, whatever you want. Just leave him alone. Smart girl, Troy said, standing over me. I was furious. I hadn't fought since high school. No, I said again, exaggerating my struggle to get up. You've got guts for an old man, he laughed. You're the only one here who stands up to me. I swung clumsily at him, purposely missing. We don't need to do this, he said. But why are you willing to fight for her when you didn't fight for your wife? Easy, I said, still staggering. Ella is worth it. I approached him, pulling back my fist again. He smiled. I swung awkwardly and he leaned back. At that moment, I kicked him as hard as I could in the groin. His scream could have been heard across Lake Superior. As he doubled over, I brought my knee up into his face and he fell. His friend stared in shock. You were faking it, he said. You weren't that hurt. It's called cheating, I laughed. He's taller, heavier, has a longer reach, and is 20 years younger. Is that a fair fight? He was desperate, Dave said. We don't know how to survive here. Troy's always been hot-tempered and thought he should lead. On the boat, you had all the ideas. During the storm, he screamed like a kid, and it embarrassed him. When you left to explore, he turned it into a popularity contest. You should have played along instead of abandoning us. I think you were more mad at your wife than anything else. Troy groaned, still on the ground. And don't blame Troy for your wife, Dave continued. She offered herself, and he took her. She's not even his type. Too old for us. It was just for fun. Screw you, Dave, the blonde muttered. You already have several times, Dave said. And it wasn't great. The blonde, without makeup, didn't look as attractive, and she stood there muttering. Troy began to stir. Dude, are you okay? Dave asked. My gear, it's throbbing, Troy moaned pitifully. Ella slowly approached me, and Dave and the others couldn't take their eyes off her. She let her hair down, pulling it into a long ponytail like a black waterfall. Her chest strained against her bra, and her curves shook with every step. Troy tried to stand, then screamed in pain, almost passing out again. What's wrong now? Dave asked. My hand, Troy groaned. It's dislocated, I said, grabbing his shoulders to help him. He flinched away. Don't touch me, he snapped. Listen, I said firmly. Your shoulder is dislocated. The longer it stays that way, the worse it'll get. Lie down, shut up, and I'll try to fix it. I grabbed his hand, placed both my legs on his side, and pulled sharply. He screamed and then sighed in relief. Oh, damn, that feels so good, he said. You need to make an armband, I said. It'll be sore for a week, and even after the pain subsides, it'll be weaker for a while. You should head back to your side of the island and rest. Dave helped him up, and they all left, though there was a lot of grumbling. I suspected they'd soon have a new leader. Ella looked at my face, then ran off. Just let her go, Dana said from behind me. What did I do wrong? I asked. Absolutely nothing, Dana said. She's even more obsessed with you now. You got beaten up to protect her. Do you know what that does to a woman? When did she start really liking me? I asked. From the first night you told her how much you loved her voice. She said, "Rob, do you know what women hear all the time? We hear, 'Look at that A,' or 'God, I wish I could grab those bosom.' You didn't hear what Dave said about Becky? Do you know how hurt she is right now? Believe me, to Ella, you can do no wrong." I continued working on the mirror, adjusting it to aim the beam over the cliff and onto the water. I was just starting to remember we'd skipped breakfast when I heard hesitant footsteps behind me. I turned to see Ella. She held 2 square boards Dana had made for plates. There were greens and some type of meat cut into pieces. We had 3 or 4 pieces each with mugs of berry juice. She looked at me, then quickly looked away. "What did I do now?" I asked. "Your eye," she said. "And your lip. They'll heal," I replied. "But they shouldn't," she said. "I could catch fish for him for a few days. Maybe he could learn to fish for himself." "Maybe I didn't want to be without you for a few days," I said. Her eyes widened, and she tried to hide her smile. "The greens are different," she said. "I found them underwater near where I fish. I asked Gil to dive in and cut some. It's like kale, but the taste is a bit different." I realized she wanted to change the subject. "What kind of meat is this?" I asked. "Try it," she said, smiling. I took a bite. It wasn't squirrel, less fatty, more like chicken, though I knew there weren't any chickens on the island. "Is this seagull?" I asked, chewing. She shook her head. "It's not pigeon, is it?" I asked, taking another bite. "IG caught it," she said. "It's a snake." I spat it out, taking a long sip of berry juice. "Rob, do you know when I realized you cared about me?" she asked. I shook my head. "It was when you told me to eat every kind of protein available, even if it tasted terrible. You didn't say that to anyone else. It mattered to you that I stayed healthy. So now I want you to eat your snake for me. It's not as tasty as fish, but it's protein. Better than nothing." From that moment, something shifted between us. We never discussed it or made anything official, but we became a couple. We also stayed together from then on. Since we couldn't store extra food, we began giving any surplus to the other group. When we brought them a bucket of fried fish and greens, they pounced on it, devouring it by the handful. Unlike us, they had no sense of sharing or teamwork. Each person just took as much as they could and walked away. One morning, a few days later, Ella and I were sitting on a cliff. She was fishing, and I was watching her in my underwear. Ella rinsed her clothes every day in the cool, clean water and let them dry in the morning sun. While her clothes dried, she fished in her underwear. By the time her clothes were ready, she usually had enough fish for the day. Once she put her clothes back on, she would rinse her underwear. Since we became a couple, we hadn't had intimacy, but we started kissing a lot. That morning, as she sat there fishing and smiling at me, I knew we'd lie on the soft grass and share long, slow kisses for hours. As I looked at her, she casually moved her hand up her side until her long fingers rested on her bra. She slowly pulled down the lace cups, releasing her beautiful pale tan bosom. Suddenly, it felt like teleportation was real. One second, I was sitting on the grass 10 feet away, and the next, I was on her lap, caressing her, without any memory of moving in between. Suddenly, she sighed. "Rob, I'm not going to stop," she said. "I want you so much." "Not even for that boat," she said. "What boat?" I asked. I stood up and looked out at the water. She was right. There was a small boat moving toward us. I ran to the mirror and aimed the beam at it. At first, it looked like it might pass by, but then it slowed down. Ella and I started jumping and signaling. The boat turned toward us. Gil heard our screams and ran over. As the boat got closer, we saw it was a small motorboat, no more than 10 feet long, with 3 people already aboard. IG and Dana arrived when they heard us shouting. In her excitement, Ella forgot to cover herself, and IG's eyes nearly popped out. We decided only one of us could go back. It was quickly decided that it would be Gil. They wanted me to go, but I refused. Gil could handle talking to the authorities, the boat's registration, insurance, and other details. They also reported our location to the Coast Guard, but cell service just wasn't working in the area. "Why didn't you go?" Ella asked as we watched Gil sail away. "And leave you?" I asked. "That'll never happen." "Good answer," she said. When Dana and IG went back to what they were doing, Ella and I headed to the other side of the island. As soon as we got there, everyone gathered around. Before we even started talking, I heard a small sigh. I looked up and saw Natalie noticing Ella and me holding hands. "Where's the food?" one of the botanists asked. "Everything you need will be here soon," I said. "We've been rescued." "What? How?" Dave asked. "Mirror," I said. Ella and I were on the cliff fishing when she saw the boat. I used the mirror to signal them. The boat was too small for more than one person, so we sent Gil. They'll send a rescue boat. Everyone got excited, talking about the first things they wanted to do once they got back. I overheard someone ask if Ella always wore her underwear, and another person wondered what we were doing alone on the cliff that morning. "Who cares?" someone else said. "This is the end. We're going home." A little over 2 hours later, I leaned on the railing of the Great Lakes rescue boat, watching the island slowly shrink. I could still see where we had set up camp and wondered what would become of our primitive shelter. $1 for your thoughts," said a quiet voice beside me, his crisp British accent making the mangled line even more charming. "My thoughts are worth at least $5, I said. "Can I guess them first?" she asked. "That's a lot of money, especially for a poor librarian." "Okay," I said. I talked to Dana. She went back to her friends. She and IG talked it over. He explained to her kindly that what they had would always be special, but it was just an island fling, something that wouldn't work in real life. She agreed, said he was too old for her, and they both decided to return to their lives. "The island was just an episode," she said, looking at me. I nodded. "Is that what you were thinking?" she asked. "Were you trying to find a gentle way to tell me the same thing?" "Something like that," I replied. I watched her struggle to keep her expression calm. "Actually, I was just thinking that after our wedding, we could rent a boat and come back here for our honeymoon. Can't decide if we should invite some friends. And, of course, if we have kids, we'll bring them here someday. My other kids might want to see it too, depending on which side they're on after the divorce." The next thing I knew, she came at me so fast I nearly toppled over the railing. Somewhere in that tangle of arms and legs, our lips met for a moment before someone cleared their throat. I turned to see Natalie standing behind me. "Ella, can I talk to Rob for a moment?" she asked. Ella nodded. "I'll go try to console poor Dana," she said. "Is she on the list?" I asked. "Definitely," Ella replied, and an idea started forming in my mind. "Rob, what's going on?" Natalie asked. "You haven't said more than 10 words to me since you let me know you knew what I did. We need to talk about this." "I talked to Dana on the island," I said. "She told me something that doesn't make sense. I think you might have the wrong idea about what happened here. Natalie, as soon as this ship docks, I'm filing for divorce. If what you have to say will save me time, let's do it now. It means we won't have to waste time later," I said. "Okay, Rob, I don't know how you found out, but yes, I cheated before we got to the island. But I stopped on my own and decided to dedicate myself to making you happy. That's why we got on that damn boat in the first place, so we could fall in love again. I quit, Rob. I'd never do it again. That should count for something," she said. "It says something," I replied, and she smiled. "It says nothing. 0 is something mathematically. What else did you want to say?" "Well, you know Troy forced us all to sleep with him and the others." She knew I knew she was lying as soon as she said it. "Nat, do you think I found out about you and Troy?" I asked. "Dana told you, right?" she said. "No, Nat. You told me yourself," I said. "Before, you sided with Troy against me, just like you did with the captain. I was in the bushes. I saw you with him, heard everything. It's funny. A guy I can't stand cared more about our marriage than you did. He even asked, 'What about your husband, Rob?' I was scared," she whined. "I wanted the best chance of survival." "Well, you picked the wrong side," I said. "And I paid for it," Natalie said. "They treated us like trash. Ella only had to be with you. She probably even liked it. We were passed around without our consent, and those nerds were sadists." "Natalie, Ella and I haven't had sex yet," I said. "I think we'll wait until after the wedding." "You can't be serious," she said. "Are you really going to divorce me?" "That's the plan," I said. "Just like Steve and Eddie." "Rob, Steve and Eddie are nothing like us. They haven't been married that long, and they don't have 2 kids to explain it to." "Okay, I had physical engaging with some guys while I was with Eddie. It was just for fun. It was only Zex. No permanent partners. Just casual, nameless Zex. And I always came home to you. I never embarrassed you or did anything with our friends." "So what?" I said. "So it's as much your fault as it is mine," she said sharply. "I waited 20 years while you went to work every day. I was bored. I felt less than human." "Tell that to Oprah or Dr. Phil," I snapped. "After our divorce, write a book and be on The View. But don't give me that excuse. It's such a cliche. I worked hard every day to give you what you wanted. I bought the house in the neighborhood you wanted. I bought you the car you wanted. When you ask for those things, someone has to pay for them. My part was working hard to cover the loans. Your part was taking care of the house and the kids. If you wanted a change or a job, all you had to do was tell me. You could have said, 'Honey, I want to work and help out.' Even if the job only covered daycare, it would have been the same. Instead, you're telling me all these excuses, but you couldn't just say you were bored." She looked at me as if she'd never considered it. "Well, what you're doing is not the same as what I did," she replied sharply. "I had a few meaningless affairs with guys I barely remember. You went out and found someone to replace me." I laughed. "Are you laughing because you don't see your relationship with Ella as serious?" she asked. "How much time do you need with her before your wounded ego lets us get back together?" "Natalie, Ella could never replace you," I said. She smiled. "Ella is younger, smarter, prettier, and in better shape than you ever were. Most importantly, she believed in me before we even met. She listened to me and Troy and chose my side when my own wife wouldn't. As for time, I want to spend the rest of my life with her." "What will we tell our friends? What will we tell our children?" she asked, almost pleading. "I don't want to end up like Eddie." "Tell them whatever you want," I said. "I'll tell them the truth." Once we reached the dock, things really began to move fast. I'd already told Natalie I planned to leave the house, so she needed to find somewhere else. Since she couldn't afford the mortgage without a job or substantial child support, she agreed. She decided to move in with her parents and planned to pick up her things on Saturday. I got into my Mustang and drove home. Once there, I called the same divorce lawyer that Steve had used. Steve ended up paying Eddie very little, and I hoped for a similar outcome. I had another ace up my sleeve, actually two. While I was busy separating bank accounts and canceling all of Natalie's credit cards, she chose a different route. She called our kids and fed them a bunch of lies. She hired her own lawyer and fought every settlement offer I made. We went through consultations, and even our therapist was shocked by Natalie's behavior. The consultations failed but lasted 8 weeks. In a last-ditch effort to avoid court, we tried arbitration. That's when I finally understood Natalie's intentions. She was trying to do what Eddie did to Steve, squeeze as much money as she could out of the divorce. If she couldn't save the marriage, she wanted enough money to keep doing whatever she wanted. The judge didn't give her nearly as much as she hoped for, and what she did get was only for 2 years. After a few months of wild living, Eddie realized that being constantly available wasn't as fun as she thought it would be. She ended up lonely and broke. Natalie saw this and tried to avoid the same outcome. She did everything possible to delay the divorce, thinking that if she stalled long enough, I'd take her back. She even used our kids, her parents, and many of our friends, telling them lies to try to convince me to work things out. I begged her to accept one of my settlement offers to end it. The arbitrator was frustrated with Natalie's behavior. In the end, he just asked her what she wanted, hoping to use it as a negotiation starting point. Natalie continued to make absurd demands, saying that if she didn't get them, she wanted to stay married. One demand was $2 million a year for 10 years. Since I made under $100,000 annually, this was ridiculous. The arbitrator wrote a note to the judge about Natalie's behavior and sent us to court. Natalie didn't realize that court was the worst option for her and the best for me. Our adult children attended the hearing, and neither had spoken to me since Natalie filled their heads with lies. In court, in front of our parents and kids, Natalie made her last stand. The first witness my lawyer called was Natalie's ex-girlfriend, Eddie. By the time Eddie finished describing what Natalie had been doing behind my back, my son was furious, and my daughter was in tears. They no longer believed Natalie's lies. When my second witness was called, Natalie sank even deeper into her seat. She tried to have her lawyer block Troy from testifying, but the judge insisted. By the time Troy finished detailing what Natalie did on the island, even I was surprised. The judge used his full discretion in determining the divorce terms. State law required equal division of assets, but he had some leeway in how it was done. I had already given Natalie half of our joint bills and let her take whatever she wanted from the house. The judge allowed her to keep her car, permitted me to buy out her share of the mortgage, and set alimony at $1 per week for 2 years. Natalie had already spent the money from our joint accounts, leaving her in a tough spot. We had little equity in the house due to a second mortgage taken to pay for our children's education. Natalie also had to pay her own legal fees, and despite delaying the divorce at her request, her lawyer charged for his time. In the end, Natalie found herself in debt. Our house cost $110,000. We still owed $30,000 on the first mortgage and $40,000 on the second, leaving us with $40,000 in joint equity. I gave Natalie $20,000. She owed her lawyer $22,000. To help her out, I offered to pay all alimony in one sum. I handed her 5 crisp $20 bills and 16 quarters, then walked away. Almost exactly 6 months after leaving court, I found myself back on the dock. Ella and I looked at the massive ship moored there, and she squeezed my hand. "Daddy, Ella!" someone shouted behind us. My daughter Susan ran up and hugged us both. She introduced us to a modest young man, her boyfriend, and they boarded the ship. Both sets of grandparents were already on board. I was still amazed that I remained close to Natalie's parents, given they were my children's grandparents. IG and his wife waved from the top deck. I shook my head and Ella nudged me. "Be nice," she said. Dana arrived with a guy who looked like Gil. "You'll have to explain how they ended up together," I said. Troy and Dave showed up too, each with pretty college girls. The island experience had changed a lot in their lives. The botanists arrived alone. My son was already at the island. He had rented a helicopter and flown there as part of our backup plan. The only people who weren't with us from the island were Dana's 3 friends. They felt they had been treated badly and didn't want to relive it. And of course, Natalie wasn't there. It wasn't that she didn't want to come, but after our divorce, things hadn't gone well for her. Most of the men she dated weren't kind, leaving her with bruises and scrapes. Plus, the money she made as a receptionist wasn't enough to afford a nice dress. But the biggest reason she couldn't attend was that she was in jail. She felt betrayed by Eddie's testimony in court. On the other hand, Eddie felt abandoned by Natalie during her own divorce. So even though they were alike, they rarely saw each other. A few nights ago, they ended up at the same bar and fought over the same guy. The judge sentenced them to a week in jail for property damage, disturbing the peace, mutual attack, and public drunkenness. As the large ship pulled away from the dock, a smaller one followed at a distance. I wanted to see our little island again. We planned to get married there, and while everyone else slept comfortably on the ship, Ella and I would spend the first night of our honeymoon in our old, primitive shelter. The next day, we'd board a helicopter and head back for the start of our real honeymoon in Vegas. $1 for your thoughts, Ella said beside me. "Oh, I don't have to pay for them anymore," I said. "We'll be married in a few hours and we'll be together forever. I'll never do anything to lose you. I love you too much." "I could listen to you forever," I said. But what I was actually remembering was just before I fought Troy over you on the island. "Do you remember what I called this place?" "Yeah, you called it Gilligan's Island," she said, laughing. "No, what did I say? This is the land of Gil, IG, and me. Maybe the 3 of us should look into buying it." "Maybe not," she said. But we lived happily ever after.